Hello, everybody. I'm Mario. I'm the enthusiastic developer in this duo. I'm glad that my enthusiasm is going from one show to the next. Random fact about me: once I was in Norway in a youth camp, and we actually visited like an old village that is made up like Viking old village, and they actually had a blacksmith where you would have that big thing that blows wind, and then it would blow into the fire, and then you would take a piece of iron, put it into the fire. You would take a big sledgehammer, and then you would whack it onto the nail to actually make your own knife. So I made my own knife, and it's actually quite relaxing and liberating to bang out your own knife out of hot steel. So if anybody has a chance to try being a blacksmith for a day, I honestly advise it.
Love it. Sounds like a really good testosterone raising exercise.
Oh yeah.
Hi everybody. My name is Tom. I'm a designer in the duo. A quick random fact about me is since moving to this house, I have a daily walk in a large forest slash park that is literally across the street, and it used to be a golf course. Now it's just a huge park, and I do my 10,000 steps every morning there, walking my dog, which is great. And to your point of forging knives, there's a TV show on History Channel called Forged in Fire. Have you seen that one? I love that show. When I lived in Croatia, my parents used to have History Channel, so I would see it once in a while. It was a great, great, cool show, and it made me want to forge my knife. I never got a chance to do that yet, but at some point, I'm going to do that for sure. And for today's topic, so this one's a little random, but today what Mario and I are going to do is we're going to talk about books, and let's treat this episode as a book club, and we want to talk about a couple of books that we read recently, and maybe even not so recently regarding the industry, but not only that. So we're going to be sharing this, and Mario, since you suggested the topic, I'll give you a first crack at a book of choice.
Ooh, now I'm scared. So actually, most of the books I read recently are I do them audio. I do audiobooks recently because I started running again, and I actually get up at 6 a.m. and do a quick run. And what's so good about that? Nobody is pinging. No cell phone is pinging. No WhatsApp. No LinkedIn. No email. No phone. No kids. I have like 45 minutes to myself, and then I run, and then I listen. Um, One of the cool things I listened to recently is predictable revenue. So I like predictable revenue. Predictable revenue is by Aaron Ross and Mary Lou Tyler. And I like the concept. Everything they say makes sense. However, I think this is something that we discussed when we discussed mentorship. It's a little bit further down the line than I am currently. So it's not all of it is something I can apply directly. A lot of it is something I can apply directly, but in general, it is an eye opener for some things. But it's in general a little bit further ahead than I am at the moment. I think it's for a little bit bigger enterprises than my small agency. So, but I definitely enjoyed it, and it actually helped me make quite a few runs. So, yay, one for me.
That's good. How long do you think you're gonna get to the point where you actually gonna it's gonna be useful? Like, what is the metric that you know? Like, this is now I can start put this into practice.
That's a good question. So,
Before you answer that one, in two bullet points, what is predictable revenue?
predictable revenue is teaching you how to organize your sales and sales teams in order not to, uh, um, in order to have consistent income of new work and new sales, and not having to worry like where your next job is going to come from. And I'm currently in a situation where I'm a small company. There's like 10 of us, and we're either having people that are not working because we don't have a project, or we're having a situation where we have a little bit more than we can deliver, and then it's a little bit of panic mode. And normally my job is to keep those two modes in sync. And I think I'm actually doing a good job. And a thing that I'm proud of is that in my company, people don't work overtime. Like, you go home, I respect that you have a life. We have a business contract that you're going to work 8 hours on this job. And after that, go home, see your wife, see your lover, see your dog, see your, I don't know, pet plant, whatever. Do whatever you do when you're not here. Just do it, because that's your life. Your work should not be your life. And people are reacting really well to that. So at one point, I just have to, I think, in my mindset, say, okay, now let's go grow a little bit faster and a little bit stronger, and start applying more and more of these things. I'm already applying some of them, but more and more, uh, it's just work and change of mindset and all of that that comes with reading and growing and applying stuff that you read. So it's going to be an interesting challenge.
So what happens when, let's say that you set up this sales pipeline and they start delivering, right? So salespeople deliver, and you cannot follow the demand. What happens then?
I don't know. I don't want to get myself into that situation, because uh, I'm not the. My company is not the biggest company. My company is not the best company in the world. I'm never going to say that. But I'm able to look all of my clients straight in the eye and tell them that I did actually exactly what I told them that I do. And if I told them that I can do something, then I delivered. And if I couldn't do something, then I would look at them straight up and say, "Hey, I cannot do this right now. I'm going to be able to do it in 3 months. Is that something that works for you?" And that's something that I want to keep, because that's for me the easiest way to look at myself in the mirror every evening and every morning. So from that end, I don't want to grow faster than I can grow. Does that mean that I'm probably not going to be a millionaire anytime soon? Yeah, it probably does. But on the other hand, I'm not going to be in a situation where I'm going to have 10 employees that I'm going to have to say, "Hey, I don't have money to pay your salaries. We need to terminate this." So it's, I don't know, maybe I'm old school.
Maybe it's not important to be a millionaire. It's more important to have, workforce that likes you and likes working with you, and clients that actually appreciate what you deliver.
I agree with that.
Great.
But I would still like to know when my next job is coming, where from, and to have a consistent income of jobs, so that I can know, okay, this year there's, I don't know, 1 million, 2 million coming in, whatever, but that I know, okay, this is how much I expect, and not that I don't have to wing it, but that I actually know how it's coming, where from it's coming, and so on.
Yeah, makes sense. There's a book I read last year called Oversubscribed, I think. It's about how do some businesses get more people in that they can deliver and why it's a good thing. And basically, one of the great examples that the book uses is you have a luxury brand, let's say Gucci handbags, whatever, right? And if you look at their store, it's a large store that has, I don't know, 3,000 square feet of space, and it has 10 handbags inside, and that's it. And there's a line outside, and like women are just queuing to go in and see this $5,000 handbag that's one of the 10, and it's like you can't even get in, right? And then across the street, you have a handbag salesman who has a store filled with handbags from floor to ceiling. They're all high quality leather handbags, handmade, way better quality probably than the Gucci across the street. They are $50 each, and he's yelling like, "Hey, come in, cheap handbags," and nobody gives a shit, right? And then the book goes into how to achieve the first one, not the second one, and how psychology of buying works, and maybe even creating a demand that you cannot even fulfill and be okay with that. So like being okay with leaving money on the table. So I think Gary Vee said that he would rather take on a project and then tell clients no for 6 months and say, like, I cannot take on a new project until I deliver this one, and this is the next starting date, and then be okay with it, than taking on three and then failing two, and then fucking up your company.
So, how did you say that was called? Oversubscribed?
Oversubscribed.
Okay, so you've touched based on a few points that I'm going to now address. And while addressing that, I'm going to recommend Influence by Cialdini. I don't know how that's pronounced. So in Influence, he kind of addresses this exact same example. He says that, I don't know, a lady had a jewelry store and she had some necklace that she couldn't sell and the price was $20. So she said, okay, this is $20. Then, okay, it's 15. No, it's 10. No, it's 5. No, it's 3. No, nobody wants to buy it. And then at one point she just, I don't know, went off her noggin and said, okay, it's $500. She sold it within the hour because people have automatic triggers that we use in everyday life to make our shortcuts for our brains, because if we actually analyzed every single decision that we make, we would never make any decision. We would never get out of bed in the morning. And one of the automatic triggers is that price correlates with value, which is generally true, but because it's generally true, we take it as an automatic truth. And when we take it as an automatic truth, then companies and influences and things like that are trying to manipulate us into believing them that it's true and just charging a higher thing.
Yes.
On the other hand, another book that I've fairly recently read, like within the last year, and that I would also love to suggest here, is from Alex Hormozy, $100 million Offers, where he goes and says, okay, you can do, I don't know, a health course for uh, generally like a health life balance course for people for $19.99. However, if you do a health life balance for salespeople, then it can cost $100. If you do health life balance for salespeople, for B2B salespeople, then it can cost $200. And if you do it for outbound B2B people, then it can cost $250. And then if you do it for outbound B2B people in gardening, then you can do it for $500. It's generally the same product, a little bit tweaked and adapted, but because it's so niche, because it's so unique, because when it hits you, you say, wow, this is exactly for me, you are willing to pay for it a lot more. And Alex Hormozy's book was an eye-opener for me. It was really interesting. All of his content on LinkedIn, on YouTube is very interesting. So whoever isn't watching Hormozy, I strongly suggest that you start.
He's actually, I think, dropping his second book now. I saw a post that something is coming, and it's about lead generation. So it's gonna pair very well with the first one. And
Are you sure it's first? He said that he's going to do $100 million lead generation, $100 million sales, but I don't know in which order.
so it was offers, and I think the second one is leads, and then it's gonna be sales. But I think the leads are coming next, but we'll see. And I love that his course is completely free on his website. That's that the guy's not bullshitting, because he's giving it for free. So the philosophy behind it is really cool. So yeah, that's definitely a good book. Who
Yeah, he's
recommended that
doing
book to you?
you. I can't remember if you recommended it to me or if I recommended it to you, but yeah, I know that it came out of. So for all of you who don't know, before we actually started recording these, Tom and I would meet online like this, like once a month, and then discuss what we've read, what's happening in our lives, what are the new projects, what are the new technologies. And then at one point we just decided, okay, let's record this. This could be, interesting to some other people except for the two of us. Please subscribe, comment, and say that it is if it is. But basically, quite a few of these book recommendations came out of these conversations.
There's a book that I fairly often suggest to people around personal branding that I want to mention, because I just suggested it again a couple of days ago. I'm now working with woman she's a virtual assistant, but like she's way more than just a virtual assistant. And when we had our initial conversations, this is what I told her: like, you're not a VA, and if you keep calling yourself a VA, this is where people's gonna place you, because you hear virtual assistant, you put it in a box like it's a person that does menial work for cheap online, right? Whatever. But she works with specific niche of people. She concentrated on indie hackers and people building their own software, individual and stuff like that. So like, it's very specific niche, and does not do only reply to emails and stuff. She does a lot more stuff to help that specific group of people. So we kind of had this conversation like, you're not a virtual assistant. Like, you help these very specific people who are majority of them software engineers in a very specific way. So we started talking about her personal branding and so on. And one of the books that I love to recommend is from a Croatian author called Nela Donato, and her book on personal branding, which is called Human Centered Brand. And it's a great book. I even use one of her slides from the book I use in my slides when I talk about personal branding, is how the brand is built. And especially people think, I need a personal brand, I need a logo. Like, no, logo is the last thing that you need. You're not a shoe. You don't need a logo. You just need your signature, and that's it. And you are who you are, and that's your brand. So it's a great little book. And it also comes with like a digital version with like a workbook that helps you through like your brand and guide styles, because she's a style guide. She's a graphic designer, so she puts some a little extra on the graphic side as well. It's very useful. So that's definitely a good book to recommend.
So the problem I may be having with personal branding, I don't know. So I am a tech guy. I do software development. I can envision products. I can ask the right questions. I can define what needs to be built, how, when, by whom. I can even build it. I can deliver it. I can maintain it. So I can do the whole thing in the whole process. However, I'm doing several things in my life. I'm running a software development agency. I'm working in a startup, which is a do-it-yourself platform for market research. It's called Piketot. It's amazing. You should go out and buy everything. Uh, I'm doing this with you. I am, playing drums. I'm doing all sorts of different stuff. And talking about personal branding, everybody tells you like, do one thing and then stick to it and make that one thing your personal brand. I don't know how to do that, and I don't know if I'm even okay with that. So that's my problem with all of the textbooks read in and about personal branding, is that they kind of force you to focus on one thing, and focusing on one thing and one thing only is not necessarily what I do at the moment with my life. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And but here's the thing, and I can tell you right away, like, this book doesn't. And when I talk about personal brand with people, is like you said in the beginning, like, I'm a developer and I'm a guy who has questions, and I'm running an agency and I'm doing all of these things. This is your personal brand. Like, you are this guy. Maybe the problem would be like, how do you name yourself? This was one of my like how do I name myself? I'm a designer and a speaker and a mentor and a comedian. What is the so I kind of came up with this. Like, I'm Captain Awesome. Because this is like, why not? There are no rules. Like, people kind of feel, in general, we feel that there should be a rule for everything, and there needs to be a system for everything. This is how we brought up. This is because we live in a system that is built on rules. So it's kind of, when you do something new, it feels there should be a way to do stuff, right? But that's not necessarily true. Like, you can come up with shit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, you can be Dr. Computer. Who gives a fuck, right? It doesn't matter. Like, you can be whatever. Like, you can come up with this, and then you're the one who gives it meaning. So, like, what does it mean to be Dr. Computer? Yeah. It's like, you're gonna be Dr. Computer. I'm gonna be Captain Awesome. You're obviously the bad guy. obviously. And
Tomorrow I conquer the world.
so yeah, it can be like Captain Awesome and Doctor Computer do shit. Doesn't matter. Uh, and but the personal
Mm.
brand comes, and I'm going to share the graphic from the book here, and I'm going to put in the link. But the idea is a lot of things comes like, who am I? Who is my client? Who am I for my client? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Do you have only one client? Do you serve multiple people? Because realistically, as a CTO of a company, of a startup, your client is your people, right? You're not serving a client. You have people who do that. So it's kind of like different than me running an agency, finding clients from agencies. It's kind of different thing. So there are a couple of, like, I don't, this is not an episode for this, but there are a couple of like exercises I like to run around like personal branding, identifying who you are. And as much as I know about this, and this is kind of a funny story, a friend of mine who does pricing consultancy helped me with my personal brand, because as the saying goes, please use my advice, I'm clearly not using it. So I had to go through this 2 hour process with him where we were distilling, like, what is my core message? Like, I know who am I as a person, what is my personal brand, but he asked me, what is your core message that you want to put out? And like, everything that I'm doing has to be distilled to this like single thing. Like, there's this core common thing between everything. What is that? And I was like, fuck, like, I'm not sure, right? So, and once we got to it, it was so obvious. And is this something that I usually tell people? Like, this is what I really strongly believe, but I didn't pair it with like, this is my core truth that actually drives all of my decisions. And once we got to that, and it's very, the way we got to it is very similar to what I do when I work with people on how to identify their personal brand, and it's very valuable actually. You and I can do that one day for sure. But anyway, got a bit off topic. There's a book I would like to
No,
recommend. Sorry, yeah, no,
no, I just wanted to say that it's not off topic. And I also, this brought me to the book I'm currently reading, but go first.
no. Mine was completely off. I think yours is going to be more related to what we are talking about
Okay,
anyway.
so mine is kind of related, and it's a book that I'm currently reading by, I cannot remember the author's name, so sorry if I'm looking at my mobile phone constantly. April Dunford. The book is called Obviously Awesome. Still haven't finished it, but it's a lot about positioning. And she gives a basic example like you're making a new product, and your product is a cake, but a cake that people can take in their hand and eat on the go. So it's a healthy cake, and you can eat it on the go, like you can buy it at a kiosk and then just walk to your work while eating it. And then she says, think about the positioning of. Imagine that was a pitch. Think about the positioning of your pitch. If you say you are a cake, people will associate you with other cakes. Cakes are something you eat after lunch. They come served nicely. They are, in slices. They need to be creamy. You cannot take it in a hand. Yes, your twist is that you want to take it in a hand. That's your secret sauce. But the idea that people don't relate you with that. So, how do you do that? You don't be a cake. You go and be a snack. Now I'm a cake like snack, or now I'm a dessert like snack, or now I'm a healthy snack because I'm actually healthy. Now I'm a polio diet snack. Now I'm talking about a different thing. I'm breaking your prejudice about what I could be if I misrepresent myself. And I'm immediately addressing the right audience that would be interested in something, because not the same people are going to be interested in carry along cake as they would be in a healthy snack to eat after a gym. So she has quite a few interesting ideas, and they tie in very nicely with the 100 million dollar offers from Hormozy. So uh, um, I like when different people have ideas that kind of fit into each other. It means that they make sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. I love that book. I read that book a couple of years ago, and it's I even gave it away in one of my newsletter giveaways. It's a great book. Uh, and like you said, when they fit together, I kind of see it as a sort of a sort of a recipe type of thing. Like Alex's book is one thing, this one is the other, and then you kind of take the things that work and put them together and they make sense for you. I got a book from a guy that mentored me a couple of years ago. In I had a weird relationship with money back then, and it kind of the definition would be like it's kind of I felt dirty selling things in terms of, I never liked sales, but it was a very just such a it felt very cringe for me. So he bought me a book, gave me a book for Christmas called "You Are a Badass at Making Money" by author called Jen Sincero, and she was homeless at some point, right? Really down, like broke, and then changed her life and made a fuckload of money and whatever. But the book is not about how to make money. The book is more about how to change your relationship towards money, and not just how you see money, but also how you see uh, asking money for the things that you provide. And it's like 80% of the things that you know, and that's true for a lot of books recently that I've been reading, is like there's a lot of things that I know, and before we started you said like all of these guys are saying the same thing, but there's, even if there's like 9 out of 10 things that you know, there's this one thing that can be crucial on like unlocking something and telling you something that you know in a different way that kind of shines a different light on the thing. So I would always rather like read a book or listen to the book that I think I know, and then pick that one thing up, then discard it completely, right? And this book was one of those where it kind of gave me a new insight on the things that I already knew that was wrong with me, and helped me change that. And last week I got a recommendation for a book called I'm also looking at my phone because I'm reading listening all of the books, but the book is called it's from Brandon Bouchard, The 6 Habits of Growth. And I got it recommended by a friend because I've recent couple of weeks I felt like really stuck in burnout, and like this doesn't make sense and that doesn't make sense and whatever. Kind of lost the will to do some of the things, and he told me like you have to listen to this book, because he said like it's not going to be anything new, but it's going to be some of the new maybe ways of looking at things, and how to reignite the spark, and he was not wrong. So I listened to the book. It was a great insight on some of the things that I kind of forgot, because it's easy for us, like we've been doing our work for nearly 2 decades now, so it's been a while, and you've done so much things that you normalized it, because like as humans our baseline is highly adaptable, so a lot of things kind of changed, and we are like, oh yeah, build this thing and did the thing, and like we don't give it much value and attention, but it's actually like we do some awesome amazing shit, and everybody does, right? So it's so easy to forget. They're like, oh, we did all of these cool things, and then like, well, let's do more of that because it's awesome. Like, why not? So now I started reading his next book. I'm still like 1/3 High Performance Habits, which the guy studied athletes and CEOs of the world for 20 years, and like train millions of people, and then distill what makes successful people successful, and what gives them drive, and what gives them the passion, and how they still retain the sense of achievement and happiness years on end without feeling the burnout, and without feeling like a failure. So
You
that's
mean they? You mean they don't have like a magic potion or something?
no, unfortunately not. So there are a couple of habits that you need to include. So I'm putting those on piece of paper this weekend, and I'll give it a go during the summer and see what happens.
Uh, so the only problem, I mean, the thing about the books are a great resource to learn, great resource to read, great resource to get advice from people who've done it, how they've done it, and how they would help you to do it. The only problem, quote unquote problem, is that after reading the book, you need to A, decide what works for you and what doesn't, and B, apply it relentlessly with full force, with full time. If you don't apply it, the thing that you read it, mm, and this is, I don't want to say now that I'm the smartest person ever that's applying everything he does and so on. I'm not. I would like to apply much more than I am. But I know that in theory, so reading is great, but I still fail at applying everything. And this is something that I need to work on.
I've read somewhere that there are it's like a coping mechanism for people who say want to do a thing, and they say like, I need to learn this and whatever, and then it's relentless cycle of books and tutorials and courses and videos, and it's always I have to continue learning and improving and nailing the thing before I do it, and it's sort of an excuse why they never actually do the thing.
Do it. Yeah.
You just do it. You will never be 100% ready. You will not never know 100% of the things. I still don't know a lot of shit that I still do. So always there's something new, but it's like a coping mechanism and kind of more of like a safety mechanism, because while you're learning and not doing the work, you cannot fail, right? So it's kind of like it's you're protecting yourself from failure. So it's like I'm not ready to do this yet. And then I'm gonna do it next time, sometime, eventually.
Yep.
The time never comes, right?
You're
So
not stepping out of your comfort zone. You are still in your happy place. You're still doing the same thing you did yesterday and expecting that it will somehow change once. No, the only way to change is to do something else.
just do it, and it's scary and it's hard, but it's also kind of great.
And it requires discipline and persistence. And this is something I'm not the strongest at, but I am fighting.
Good man. Uh, there's a Okay, so I know that we are kind of nearing the end of our time, and there's a book series that I want to recommend that I've been sharing with as much as people as I can, and it has some really great feedback. This one also goes for you. So it's a science fiction book series. There are four. They're fairly short. The fifth one is currently at the editors, coming out soon. But before I get to that, it's how I discovered them. So I listened to a book called Project Hail Mary, and it was gifted to me by one of my closest friends. And he was like, "I know that you don't listen to books that are nonfiction, that are like I listened to only nonfiction." He was like, I know that you're not listening to books, but you have to listen to this one. You're gonna love it." Blah blah blah. So I was like, "Okay, fuck it." It was my birthday. He got the book for me, and Project Hail Mary is written by Andy Weir, so the guy who wrote The Martian. And I was making breakfast when I started listening, and I had to sit down, and just I was sitting down for the first hour, just being completely pulled in by the book. Right, so it's an amazing book that I think is better than The Martian, and the same team that wrote the screenplay and recorded the movie are now making the movie for Project Hail Mary. Can't wait to see that one hit theaters eventually. And then, because I love the book, partly because of the narrator. Narrator is amazing. He does voices and emotion, and it sounds like a one-man drama. So I went on Audible to see what else does this guy narrate, right? And he does hundreds of books. Like, this guy is like the top narrator. Who would have guessed? So I looked at all of the books that he narrated, and the top book was called The Bobbyverse. So that was on the top. It's a very science fiction nerdy book, and it's like a nerd comedy. If you are like me, grew up on Star Wars and Star Trek and Stargate and Battlestar Galactica and all of the stars and the things and all of the TV shows, you're gonna love it, because the guy is like something older, a couple of years older than us, maybe 10 years older. He's a software engineer turned writer. And the book is basically, there was a one like bad review of the book, which I thought was the best review ever. And it's like somebody gave it 1 star. It says, "Annoying nerd saves the universe." And I was like, yes, like, yes, like that's totally plausible. Of course, just give nerds the power. But the good nerds, not the bad Silicon Valley nerds. Anyway, the book is called the Bobbyverse series, and the first one is called "We Are One, We Are Bob." I don't want to spoil anything. It's a starts as a soft science fiction novel. It turns into a civilization building story, and it's really really great.
Speaking of books that work really well because of who narrates them, if you like rock and roll music, there's a book written by Dave Grohl called Storytellers, which is narrated by Dave Grohl.
Listen to it,
And
loved it.
yeah, it's great. It describes his experiences through Nirvana, Foo Fighters, previous bands, private shows, private parties, all of that. And he's really enthusiastic and talking about it really, really happily with nostalgia, with everything. So I highly recommend it. And
Amazing
with
book.
that one, I think we need to wrap this up with a bad joke. So, Tom, have you ever played blindfolded darts?
No.
You don't know what you're missing.
But okay, good one. I have another Chuck Norris one because I kind of got back into them. So Jesus maybe walked on water, but Chuck Norris can swim on land.
Eek.
Anyway, thank you everybody for listening, tuning in, watching the show.
Yes, we
Uh,
will put the links to these books somewhere down there, which you can find when you subscribe, like, and do all of the
all
nice
of the
things that you do.
things, yeah. So yeah, I'll see you, Mario, in the next one.
Yes, enjoy.